Throwaway because a couple of my friends know my main. I honestly don't even know where to start. I've been lurking on relationship subs for years, silently thinking, man, some of these stories are wild. Glad that's not me. And now here I am. I'm 34. My wife is 32. We've been married for 6 years, together for 9. No kids. Up until recently, I would have told you we were solid. Not perfect. She's always been intense. Sharp-tongued. The kind of person who doesn't argue. She wins. But I used to think that was just her personality. Strong. Confident. A little brutal, sure, but honest. Ironically, honest is the word that makes me feel stupid now. Looking back, the cracks didn't show up all at once. It was subtle. She started working late more often. New work emergencies. Random Saturday meetings. She'd come home irritated, snap at me for the smallest things, like I'd breathe too loudly or ask how her day was. And the lies, they were small at first. Or at least I thought they were small. She'd say she was out with her coworker Jenna. I'd later see on Instagram that Jenna was at a family birthday dinner that same night. When I'd casually mention it, my wife would roll her eyes and say, "Oh my God, are you stalking people now?" I forgot, okay? We rescheduled. She always had an answer. Quick, defensive, sharp enough to make me feel crazy for even asking. There was this one night that sticks with me. She came home past midnight, smelling like a cologne I don't own. Not overpowering, just there. When I asked about it, she laughed. Actually laughed. "Paranoid much?" she said. "It's probably from hugging people goodbye. You know how humans work, right?" That's when something shifted in me. Not proof. Not confirmation. Just a quiet, sinking feeling in my gut. I started noticing everything after that. Her phone never left her hand. Face down on the table. Password changed because security updates. She'd angle the screen away from me like it was muscle memory. And here's the thing that really messes with me. She also started being nicer sometimes. Random bursts of affection. Bringing me coffee in the morning. Suggesting we book a weekend trip. It felt off. Like guilt wrapped in a smile. I didn't want to believe it. I kept telling myself I was overthinking. That relationships go through phases. That she was stressed. But deep down, I already knew something wasn't right. I just didn't know how wrong it was about to get. Things escalated fast. Like, my life just flipped upside down in 48 hours fast. About 2 weeks after the cologne night, she told me she had to go out of town for a last-minute client presentation. 2 days. Different city. Said her boss insisted she go because she's the only one who can handle high-pressure negotiations. I remember feeling weirdly proud and suspicious at the same time. The night before she left, she was oddly affectionate again. Sat closer to me on the couch. Touched my arm while we talked. Even initiated sex, which hadn't happened in weeks. It should have felt intimate. Instead, it felt rehearsed. Like she was checking a box. The next morning she left early. Kissed me on the cheek. Told me, "Don't spiral while I'm gone, okay?" With this half smirk like I was the unstable one. That comment stuck. That night, I was sitting alone, half watching Netflix, half staring at the ceiling. I don't even know what pushed me to do it, but I checked our shared iPad. We barely use it. It just sits in a drawer. And that's when my stomach dropped. She forgot to log out of her messages. At first, it was nothing dramatic. Group chats. Work emails. But then I saw a name I didn't recognize. Just a first name. Mark. The preview said, "Can't wait to actually fall asleep next to you without sneaking around." My hands went cold. I told myself it could be a joke. Maybe a coworker being weird. Maybe sarcasm. I opened it. I wish I hadn't. It wasn't ambiguous. It wasn't flirty banter you could twist into innocence. It was explicit planning. Hotel names. Inside jokes. References to last weekend and the way you grabbed me in the car. And the real punch to the gut? The hotel name they mentioned for this weekend was in the exact city she claimed she was traveling to for work. I felt like the room tilted. Like someone had physically shoved me. And then, because the universe apparently wasn't done humiliating me, another message popped up live while I was staring at the screen. "Miss you already. Text me when he falls asleep." He. I didn't cry. Not at first. I just sat there staring at that word. He. I wasn't even a person in my own marriage anymore. I was a scheduling obstacle. That was the moment it stopped being paranoia. It stopped being insecurity. It stopped being, maybe I'm overreacting. It was real. And I was alone in my house while my wife was probably in a hotel bed with another man. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat there in the dark with the iPad on the coffee table like it was a loaded weapon. I kept rereading the messages, hoping somehow the words would rearrange themselves into something less devastating. They didn't. There were months of conversations. Months. Pet names. Complaints about me. Jokes about how clueless I was. Screenshots of texts I'd sent her. Things like, love you, drive safe, forwarded to him with eye roll emojis. I think that part hurt more than the sex. She wasn't just cheating. She was narrating our marriage to him like it was some sitcom, and I was the punchline. Around 2 a.m., I did something I'm not proud of. I kept scrolling back further. I needed to know how long. I needed the full wound, apparently. It started about 8 months ago. Around the same time she began those late meetings. Around the same time she started snapping at me for no reason. There were photos too. Nothing graphic, but intimate enough. Mirror selfies in hotel bathrooms. One picture of her hand on his thigh in a car. The caption, worth every lie. That sentence felt like it physically hit me in the chest. Worth every lie. So all the gaslighting, all the eye rolls, all the times she made me feel small for asking simple questions. That was the cost of her fun, and she thought it was worth it. At some point I realized my hands were shaking. Not crying, not screaming, just shaking. Like my body didn't know what to do with this much adrenaline. I thought about calling her right then, waking her up, ruining whatever moment she was having. But something stopped me. I didn't want her to have time to prepare. She's quick. Too quick. If I confronted her over the phone, she'd twist it, delete things, rewrite the narrative before I even processed it. So I did something colder. I took pictures of everything. Every thread. Every hotel name. Every, I love you she sent him. Then I put the iPad back exactly where it was. And I waited. The next day, she texted me around noon. Presentation went amazing. Might grab drinks with the team. Don't wait up. I stared at the message for a solid minute. Presentation. Team. I almost laughed. It came out more like a broken exhale. I replied, proud of you. And that was the moment I realized something ugly about myself. I was playing along. Not because I forgave her. Not because I was weak. But because I needed to see how far she'd go. The second night she was away, I barely functioned. I went to work, nodded at people, answered emails, acted like a normal human being. Meanwhile, my brain was running a nonstop loop of those messages. Her calling him baby. Her saying she felt alive with him. Alive. What does that make me? A corpse? Around 9 p.m., she FaceTimed me. Completely unprompted. That's what really messed with my head. She was in what looked like a generic hotel room. Neutral art on the wall. White bedding. Bathroom doors slightly open behind her. Just wanted to say hi, she said, smiling. Miss you. Miss me. I studied her face like I was interrogating a suspect. She looked relaxed. Glowy, even. Not stressed from some big client presentation. I asked casually, who'd you grab drinks with? She didn't even hesitate. Just the team. Mark was being annoying as usual. Mark. She said his name like it was nothing. Like I hadn't spent the previous night watching him tell her he couldn't wait to have her again. I felt something crack in my chest right then. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just a quiet internal fracture. I said, oh yeah? What's he like? She rolled her eyes. Married. Boring. Full of himself. Married. That was new information. So not only was she cheating on me, she was doing it with another married person. I wanted to scream at her through the screen. Instead, I said, sounds fun. She smirked. Don't start. That's her go-to phrase. Don't start. As if I'm always on the verge of being unreasonable. We hung up after 10 minutes. She blew me a kiss. Told me she loved me. And here's the part I'm ashamed of. For a split second, I almost believed her. That's how deep the conditioning goes. Years of her confidence overriding my instincts. About an hour later, another message popped up on the iPad. He bought it. You're safe. Come over? My vision tunneled. Bought it. I wasn't her husband in that moment. I was a security system she had just successfully disarmed. And come over meant she wasn't even staying in her own room. I don't remember standing up, but suddenly I was pacing the living room. My heart was pounding so hard I thought I might actually pass out. This wasn't just a mistake. This wasn't a drunken slip-up. This was strategy. She was managing 2 lives with surgical precision. And I was the only one who didn't know the script. I didn't confront her while she was still out of town. I know some people would have blown everything up immediately, but I wanted to see her walk through the door and lie to my face in real time. Maybe that sounds twisted. I don't know. I just needed to witness it. She came back Sunday afternoon. I heard her car pull into the driveway, and my heart started racing like I was about to step into a boxing ring. I stood in the kitchen pretending to rinse a glass. She walked in, sunglasses on, dragging her suitcase behind her. "Hey," she said casually, like she'd just gone to the grocery store. She hugged me, kissed my cheek. Same perfume, same warmth. And I swear to God, I wondered if she'd just been in someone else's arms hours before that. "How was it?" I asked. She launched into this detailed story about the presentation. How the client pushed back on pricing. How her boss backed her up. How they all went out for celebratory drinks. The details were impressive. That's the scary part. She didn't just lie. She world-built. At one point she laughed and said, "You would have hated Mark. He talks too much." Mark again. Said like an inside joke. I felt this strange calm settle over me. Not peace. More like emotional numbness. I realized I wasn't even listening to her words anymore. I was studying her tone, her eye contact, the way she slipped in specifics to make it convincing. I said, "What hotel were you at again?" She didn't blink. "The Riverside Marriott." Why? I already knew the name from the messages. It matched. So she wasn't even hiding the location. She was just hiding what she did there. "Just curious," I said. She narrowed her eyes slightly. "You're being weird." There it was. The pivot. If I question anything, I'm weird. Later that evening, she took a shower. I sat on the edge of our bed staring at her suitcase. I don't even know what I expected to find. A love letter? A receipt with his name on it? Instead, I found something small and stupid. A hotel key card. Not one, two. Two separate key cards in the little paper sleeve. Maybe that's normal. Maybe they give two automatically. But seeing it physically in my hand felt like holding proof that she hadn't been alone in that room. When she came out of the bathroom, hair wet, towel wrapped around her, she saw the key card in my hand. And for the first time since this started, I saw something flicker across her face. Not guilt. Calculation. She recovered fast. Of course she did. "Why are you going through my stuff?" she asked, tone instantly sharp. No confusion. No embarrassment. Just accusation. I held up the two key cards. "They give you two." She shrugged and walked past me like this was beneath her. "Yeah, in case you lose one. Have you never stayed in a hotel before?" The way she said it, condescending, like I was some clueless idiot, almost made me doubt myself for a split second. "Almost," I said calmly. "Who used the second one?" She stopped brushing her hair. "No one," she snapped. "What is this? An interrogation?" I felt the calm cracking. "You told me you grabbed drinks with the team. Did anyone come up to your room?" She laughed. Not nervous. Not defensive. Just dismissive. "Oh my God. You're spiraling again. I knew this would happen. I go on one work trip and suddenly I'm having an affair." There it was. She said it first. Affair. I hadn't even used that word yet. I stared at her. Interesting choice of words. She rolled her eyes so hard I thought they might stick. "Don't twist things. You always do this. You read into everything, and then I have to calm you down." That line hit me differently this time. Because I had screenshots. I had timestamps. I had proof that while she was telling me I always do this, she was actively sleeping with someone else. I said quietly, "So you didn't see Mark outside of work?" Her face went cold. Not confused. Cold. "Are you obsessed with him?" She shot back. "He's a coworker. Grow up." The gaslighting was almost impressive. She didn't even stutter. And that's when I realized something that hurt more than the cheating itself. She wasn't panicking because she thought she'd get caught. She was panicking because she thought I might finally stop being manageable. I felt my hands clench, but I kept my voice steady. "I know about him," I said. She froze. Just for a second. Then she scoffed. "Know what?" And that's when I said the one thing I'd been holding in for 48 hours. I saw the messages. Her reaction was predictable, but still shocking. She laughed first. Not nervous. Not fake surprise. Just this sharp, bitter laugh that made my stomach twist. "You saw what?" she said, voice rising. "Oh, let me guess. You've been stalking my phone like some insecure little child." I didn't raise my voice. I just held up the iPad, screenshots visible. These. Every single one. From the start. Her face changed. For a split second, the mask slipped. I saw panic, like a storm cloud that briefly covers the sun. But then it snapped back into her usual armor, rolling eyes, scoffing, shifting blame. "Oh, this again? You always think you know everything," she said, pacing the living room now. I was stressed. You weren't giving me enough attention. You think this is about Mark, but it's not. It's you. I blinked. It's me? Yes. It's always your fault. She shot back. Her hands were shaking, but her voice was sharp. I mean, come on, you're so predictable. I got bored. Life's too short to sit around being unhappy. I felt rage bubble up, hot and sharp, but underneath it was something worse, a sick, twisting sadness. You lied for months. You actively built another life while telling me it was work trips and late meetings. You made me feel insane for noticing anything. I said, my voice cracking. She shrugged, like it was nothing. Everyone lies, babe. Don't act like you're perfect. That's when I realized she didn't see what she did as betrayal. She saw it as strategy, entertainment, a game she'd been playing, and she had me convinced I was the unhinged one all along. I couldn't even feel anger fully anymore. It was this weird mix of disbelief, hurt, and numbness. The kind that makes your limbs heavy and your brain sharp all at once. She paused, finally, and looked at me with those calculating eyes. So what now? You're going to leave? Cry? Throw a tantrum? And that's when I knew the confrontation wasn't going to give me closure. It was just the opening act of the worst days of my life. I didn't yell. I didn't storm out. I just sat down on the edge of the bed and let it all hit me. Every word, every lie, every little detail I'd been obsessing over for weeks. She kept pacing, muttering half apologies mixed with blame. I didn't mean for it to go this far, she said at one point, smirking like she thought that excused anything. I felt my chest tighten. Not meant for it to go this far. You were planning weekends with him while telling me you were at work. That's not a mistake. That's deliberate. She rolled her eyes. You're dramatizing. You're overreacting. You always do. Maybe I should have just left you sooner. You'd save me the trouble. I couldn't believe she said it out loud. My stomach dropped. The person I thought I knew, the woman I trusted, she was capable of saying something like that with a straight face. And then, she smiled. A tiny, sharp smile. You're still here. That's funny, actually. You're hanging on like a little puppy. Something inside me snapped. Not in a violent way, but in the way your world suddenly flips. I realized I had been holding on too long, hoping she'd feel guilty, hoping she'd break down and explain herself, hoping for, what exactly? A shred of honesty? She didn't feel guilty. She felt untouchable, and maybe she had always felt that way. I finally said it. I can't do this anymore. Not like this. She laughed. Do what? You mean stay married? You mean sit here pretending everything's fine while I live a better life somewhere else? Yes, I said quietly, almost to myself. Exactly that. For the first time, I saw fear in her eyes. Not for the affair. Not for the shame. Fear that I might finally stop being her audience. She stepped closer. You're overreacting. We can fix this. We can talk, work on it. I shook my head. No, I'm done. I've already seen everything. I've already felt everything. I can't unsee it. I can't unfeel it. You made your choice months ago. Her face went blank for a second. Then she smirked again. That same, unrepentant smirk. Fine, if that's what you want. And just like that, it became clear. She wasn't going to fight for this marriage. She was never going to fight for me. I realized the fight was mine, but it wasn't against her anymore. It was against the pain, the betrayal, and the years I had spent invested in someone who had been lying the whole time. The days that followed were surreal. I moved out temporarily to my brother's apartment, packed the essentials, clothes, my laptop, a few books, and left the rest behind. Every time I thought about the house, about her, my stomach twisted. The memories were sharp, like shards of glass. Friends asked me what happened. I couldn't even explain it without my voice shaking. She cheated, I'd say, and that was enough. Most people don't need the gory details. But me? I kept reliving every text, every photo, every little manipulation she'd pulled. Sleep was impossible. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face smirking at me, saw the messages pop up, saw him. I was angry, yes, but the anger was tangled with grief. Real grief. The kind you feel when someone dies, not physically, but emotionally. I went back to the house a few times to collect things. Each time, I found more reminders. Her favorite mug on the counter, her perfume lingering in the hallway, her laptop open on the couch. And every single time, a wave of nausea hit me, and I realized I had to distance myself completely to survive. What surprised me most wasn't the cheating. I thought I'd be devastated by that. It was her calculated cruelty. The way she could lie and twist reality so convincingly that I questioned my own sanity for months before I even saw the proof. That hurt more than any betrayal ever could. I spent hours writing in a journal, trying to untangle my thoughts, trying to separate the truth from the manipulation, trying to remind myself that I was not the problem, that I hadn't caused this, that it wasn't my fault. Some nights I cried for hours. Some nights I went on walks for hours, pretending I was processing, but really just letting the emptiness swallow me. And in those quiet, dark hours, I made a decision. I would not let her continue to control me, not even after she had already destroyed so much. I would leave, and I would take back my life. Breaking it off officially was harder than I thought. I drafted a message at first. Something neutral, polite. Something that made it clear I was done, but didn't let her gaslight me afterward. I deleted it 3 times. My hands shook every time. I kept thinking, do I need to explain everything? Will she even care? Eventually, I knew I had to do it in person. Not because I wanted closure from her. I realized I would never get that. But because I needed to reclaim my space, my narrative. I went to the house one last time. She was there, sitting on the couch, scrolling her phone like she always did. She looked up, smirked. Back so soon. Did you miss me? I sat down across from her. I didn't yell. I didn't plead. I just said, I can't do this anymore. I know everything. Every lie. Every time you made me feel crazy for noticing things. I've loved you, but you've made your choice. Her smirk wavered. Not gone, just flickered. What choice? She asked. Defensive. Sharp. The same tone she always used. The one where you were with him. The one where you treated me like I was disposable. The one where you lied to my face for months. She laughed. Short, dismissive. You're dramatic. It's not that simple. I looked her in the eye. Really looked. And I said the hardest thing I've ever said. I deserve better than this. I deserve honesty, respect, love, all of which you refuse to give me. I'm leaving. Her eyes flashed anger, then calculation, then something that might have been regret, but I didn't give her the chance to explain or manipulate me anymore. I stood, picked up my bag, and walked out. For the first time in months, my chest felt lighter. Scared, yes, and hollow, but light. Free. And in that moment, I realized, this wasn't just leaving a marriage. This was leaving her control over me. I didn't look back. I didn't respond to her calls. I didn't read her texts. I just walked. It was terrifying. It was necessary. It was the first real step toward reclaiming myself. The first few weeks after leaving were brutal. It wasn't just missing her. It was untangling my brain from the years of lies, manipulation, and gaslighting. Every small thing reminded me of her. The way she laughed, the smell of her perfume, even the little quirks I used to love. My apartment felt like a safe space and a prison at the same time. Friends tried to check in. Some of them got it. Most didn't. I'd catch myself explaining the affair again and again, and the exhaustion of retelling it made me realize how alone I'd felt, even before I left. At night, I'd replay her face when I confronted her. That smirk, that sharp laugh. It haunted me, not because I wanted her back, but because it reminded me of the emotional roller coaster she'd put me through. I started therapy. It was awkward at first. I didn't even know how to talk about it without getting angry or shutting down. But step by step, I began to understand. This wasn't my fault. I hadn't caused her behavior. I hadn't pushed her away. I was just the one she chose not to respect. Slowly, I started setting boundaries, deleting old messages, blocking her on social media, changing routines that reminded me of her. Every little step was painful, but every little step was mine. I was taking my life back piece by piece. I also realized that I grieved the version of her I thought I knew, not the person she actually was. That version, kind, loving, sharp but honest, had never really existed. And accepting that truth hurt more than the betrayal itself. It wasn't a clean healing process. I had moments of rage, of crying in my car, of wanting to text her just to see if she'd feel guilty. But I resisted. Every day, resisting became a little easier. And slowly, I started to see something I hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Not for her. Not for us. But for me. For a life I could rebuild without lies hanging over my head. Then came the weird part. Anger started giving way to clarity. I realized that for years I had been bending myself to fit her world. Walking on eggshells, questioning my instincts, doubting my own perceptions, all because she was relentless. She thrived on control, on making me doubt myself. And the affair? That was just the ultimate expression of it. I started thinking about what I actually wanted. Not some idealized marriage, not some fantasy of reconciliation, but a real life where I could trust myself, my choices, and the people around me. I began reconnecting with friends I'd neglected, took up hobbies I'd abandoned. Even small things, like cooking a meal without her criticism or binge-watching shows she hated, felt like tiny acts of freedom. I also noticed a strange new skill forming: intuition. I could feel the red flags now, not in a paranoid way, but in a grounded, experience-backed way. I realized I'd spent too long ignoring my gut, letting someone else rewrite reality for me. At some point, I stopped thinking about revenge entirely. I didn't need to confront her, humiliate her, or make her feel guilty. She was already living her truth, the one she chose. And I had mine now, separate, untainted by her manipulations. There were days I still felt hollow. Nights when the weight of betrayal pressed down so hard I couldn't breathe. But gradually, those moments became less about her and more about me, about learning to stand again, about rebuilding my self-respect brick by brick. I didn't feel healed yet, but I felt ready to move forward, ready to believe in myself again. And that, weirdly, felt like the first honest thing I'd felt in years. A few months later, I finally felt stable enough to think clearly about the future. I realized I didn't want to be bitter forever. I didn't want to define myself by her lies or the pain she caused. So I made a choice, not to forgive her, not to reconcile, but to learn from it. I wrote down everything I'd gone through, the early signs I ignored, the manipulations, the lies. I wanted a clear picture so I could recognize red flags in the future, for me, not for anyone else. I also started dating again, tentatively. It was strange. I wasn't looking for love yet. I was looking for honesty. And the difference was huge. I could tell immediately when someone was upfront, when someone valued my time and feelings. It was empowering. Therapy helped too. I worked through the anger, the grief, and the self-doubt. I learned that her betrayal didn't define me. It didn't make me weak. It made me more aware, more careful, more me. And every so often, I caught myself thinking about her. The smirk, the sharp words, the way she could make everything feel like my fault. But instead of hurting, I felt detached. Like watching someone else's story, not mine. It's weird how fast perspective changes when you remove yourself from toxic situations. I didn't realize how heavy the emotional load was until I wasn't carrying it anymore. I'm not fully over it, and I don't think I ever will be. But I am over her controlling me, over being a pawn in her games, over letting her define my sense of reality. And that's progress. That's survival. That's reclaiming my life. One thing that hit me hardest through all of this? Trust. I realized I'd taken trust for granted. I assumed honesty was automatic in a marriage. I assumed that years of love meant loyalty. I assumed that my instincts weren't worth listening to. And I was wrong. Brutally, painfully wrong. But the silver lining, if you can call it that, is that I now know exactly what I need from a partner. Transparency, respect, accountability. And most importantly, someone who treats me as an equal, not as someone to manipulate or gaslight. I also learned to forgive myself for ignoring the early signs, for rationalizing her late nights and weird behavior, for staying in denial because I wanted to believe the person I loved was real. None of that made me weak. It made me human. And now, I can recognize that human instinct for what it really is, a warning system. I've started setting boundaries that I never imagined I could. Emotional boundaries, physical boundaries, digital boundaries. Little things like not sharing every detail of my day, not expecting constant validation, not letting someone else dictate my self-worth. It's not easy. Some days I still feel the sting. But it's different now. It's quieter, more manageable. Less like a gaping wound and more like a scar that reminds me, I survived. I adapted. I grew. And for anyone reading this, struggling with betrayal or manipulation, it's going to hurt. It's going to feel like the ground has been ripped from under you. But you can rebuild. You can reclaim yourself. You don't have to stay in someone else's toxic narrative. You can write your own. I didn't just walk away from her. I walked toward myself. And that's the only victory that matters. Looking back now, I can finally see the whole picture, the warning signs, the lies, the emotional manipulation. It's messy, painful, and unfair. But it taught me something crucial. Sometimes the hardest truths are the ones that set you free. I've realized that loving someone doesn't mean staying in a situation where you're disrespected or devalued. I've learned that intuition matters, that self-respect is non-negotiable, and that manipulation can be subtle but devastating. Most of all, I've learned that healing isn't linear. It's messy, slow, and full of unexpected emotions. If I could give advice to someone going through something similar: 1. Trust your gut. If something feels off, it probably is. Don't ignore red flags. 2. Document, don't obsess. Protect yourself, but don't let the evidence consume you. 3. Set boundaries and stick to them. Emotional distance is necessary to survive and think clearly. 4. Seek support. Friends, therapy, communities like this. You're not alone, even when it feels like it. 5. Prioritize yourself. Healing, clarity, and your own growth are the ultimate revenge. Not revenge on them. Revenge on yourself for ever doubting your worth. I'll never forget the betrayal, and I'll always carry some scars. But I'm stronger for it. I'm wiser. And, most importantly, I'm reclaiming my life, one day at a time. So here I am, sharing this story not because I want pity, but because I want anyone going through the same nightmare to know it's possible to survive, it's possible to heal, and one day you'll feel whole again, even if it feels impossible right now.